Well, a very, very good Thursday afternoon to you, June the 15th, 1989. Lassiter with you until 6 as I am every weekday right here at News Radio 970 WFLA. Do you ever go around wondering, I'm serious too, do you ever go around wondering about some of the characters on talk radio, in particular the callers? It's obviously a lot of you do go around wondering about some of the hosts, but who cares, right there. But do you ever sit around saying, geez, I wonder what Lois, the Brandon Brain lady's doing now, like on a rainy Sunday afternoon when there's tape programming on. Or early in the morning, when there's a fishing show or a gardening show. It's pretty tough. It's pretty tough to. Or Rosemary. Who in the hell does she spy on the other 20 hours of the day? What does this woman do with her life? Why does she call? Why does she listen? Why doesn't she cash them in and go to her reward or whatever it might be? The faceless souls who day in and day out come before you to entertain, to amuse, sometimes to infuriate you, sometimes to titillate or bore the hell out of you. Why? Why do these people do this? Do you ever wonder who they really are? What the motivation is? What's really going on deep, deep, deep down inside of these dear, dear souls? Ever want to be inside the heads of one of the callers? Like Rocky. Let's analyze Rocky. Rocky was a relatively, to the best of my knowledge, obscure caller about 3.5, 4 years ago. Showed up from time to time, but was not. Rocky first came apparently to call talk radio in the days where there were no names. It was only St. Petersburg. And then Rocky got a nickname. That so happens I gave it to him. Big deal. Anybody could have. That's not the point. And then Rocky started becoming more and more and more of a character and more prominent. And he was such an unusual caller, not just because of his train of thought, shall we say, but because of his voice and his delivery. You knew it was Rocky from a mile away. And Rocky only came out when it was appropriate for the most part. Rocky didn't barge into a show about inflation and start talking about sending the blacks back to Africa. And as a matter of fact, more often than not, it seems in the early days, Rocky didn't call, but was called upon to call. Hey, what do you think about that one, Rocky? Hey, come out, wherever you are. And then Rocky would dutifully show up. Why did this man sit there? There's something almost even lovable about Rocky. He is an endearing bigot. Not necessarily lovable the way that Archie Bunker was lovable. Because Archie Bunker was also dumb. Archie Bunker was very one-dimensional. Rocky isn't. Rocky clearly has some interests in life besides his bigotry and prejudice, which I'm not convinced are that strong. You see, Rocky never, though he had many opportunities to, proved that he was for real. Rocky was going to do all kinds of things that he never did. Rocky made all kinds of promises that he never kept. And now, Rocky doesn't call very often. Perhaps it's because he's afraid of being asked to keep another promise that he knows he can't keep. I don't know. Perhaps it's because the game has just gotten old. He apparently still listens, but he just doesn't call much anymore. Whatever brought this man out to start with? Yeah, he's got all the rhetoric down, but I'm just not convinced. Sometimes, I've said this before, sometimes I think Rocky might be the most liberal man on the face of the earth, and he only calls to get conversation going, to stimulate people, because he knows that just the mere sound of his voice will bring out the decent folks to speak against him, to speak against his kind, to speak against his mindset. very, very few people actually admit to being in step with Rocky, so he certainly doesn't do it because he enjoys all the support. Obviously, he enjoys the attention. What about Southside Johnny? I feel very sorry for Johnny. I think that maybe Johnny's story is kind of true, but grossly exaggerated. I think maybe Johnny might have owned a bar, or at least worked in one some time ago, and is now just one of an awful lot of people living in South Florida who could be a lot happier. Same thing with Lois, the Brandon Brain lady. You know, there's also something endearing about her. I've been battling this old battle axe for years and years and years and years, and I remember one night over at PLP, I got a hold of this woman, and I started squeezing things that I didn't even know the woman had. But we apparently found hers, and we squeezed, and we squeezed, and we squeezed. Oh, to tell you the truth, I actually felt bad about it. Started talking about Lois's children, who apparently live in Houston, as memory serves me. And apparently they don't call as often as they ought to. And apparently maybe that's some of the moving force behind Lois and her unkind words towards other people that scare her, people that she doesn't know. Maybe Lois ought to have a lot more people around her that she knows, and maybe she isn't really all that bad. And I remember a couple of weeks ago I was sitting in the control room and Lois called up on somebody else's show. I guess it must have been Teddy's. And she was talking to Michael on the loudspeaker in there, and she had this horrible, awful cough and gag, and I guess it was a cold. It seems to have cleared up. I actually felt bad for her. I mean, Mikey and I are sitting there saying, geez, we're worried about Lois. You know, gosh, is there anybody there to take care of her? Do her kids know? Why does Lois call? She doesn't appear to be. She's somebody's grandmother. The Liar. Do you remember The Liar? Oh, he hasn't called for ages. I suspect that The Liar was probably one of the biggest fans I had as opposed to one of the biggest detractors. The Liar used to call up and say terrible things about my father or something like that. Huh. And it just seemed as though he really enjoyed, because he's never got any grief from me. I just sit there and laugh at him. But people would call up afterwards. It seemed as though he enjoyed the way I would handle them. Oscar. Oh, my God, there's a caller for you. Oscar, what in God's name is this man's motivation? Has he nothing better to do with himself? Or anyone that comes to your mind? It's Amateur Shrink Day. Every caller is fair game, and I ask that you would only try to be, reasonably serious, reasonably sincere. Amateur Shrink Day. Time to analyze. To put on the couch, if you will, the old telephone couch. All of those people who down through the years, this is not a list, by the way. You come up with your own 1, 2, 5, 10, whatever time is reasonable. All those people who down through the years have kept you from being down, huh? 990-9352 is the number in Hillsborough. 461-9352 is the number in Pinellas. 461-9352. Of course, there is the practical joke line, and that's, 1-223-9797. To put these people on the couch and just kind of pick them apart. 16 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock. You can't see them. Or headphones in there?
Yeah, hang on a second.
Okay, this is unbelievable. 3 people on the telephone. What is the matter with you Neanderthals? What an opportunity. You walk around virtually half of your lives wondering about people like Carolyn and Peg and TJ and CR and Valrico Cookie and Rosemary and Rose from St. Petersburg, just to name an absolute handful. Michael, you do the same thing, don't you?
What, think about them?
Yeah.
Occasionally. On the weekends.
On the weekends. Give me a break. Admit to it.
Day in and day out, I admit to it.
This is pathetic. 3 people on the Northerner. Give. What a bunch of nerds you people are sometimes. Unreal. Unreal. Well, let's go to Northdale. Hi, North. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Love your program. I listen to you all the time.
Great.
Listen, I wanted to talk to you about CR.
Yeah.
That pathetic drunk.
Uh-huh.
I'd like to try to get behind his motivations for calling. I think that he's very insecure about his inability to handle alcohol, and therefore feels much like a religious person, that it's something that no one can handle. I think that the man is a compulsive liar. He's very sick. If you recall, he frequently states that he used to have a very high-paying job, which he lost because he could not keep his job because he was drinking. And now that he's sober,
that's somewhat of a phenomenon.
Shut up! I'm talking right now. Be quiet, punk.
That's okay, North Dale. I'll continue the conversation without you. As I was saying, it's somewhat of a phenomenon, North Dale. Well, we're going to assume that you were really being sincere, just weren't trying to be some kind of an ass. Perhaps in subsequent calls you will be just exactly what you are, instead of trying to be sincere. But nonetheless, as I was saying, it is somewhat of a phenomenon. Virtually everybody on Skid Row used to have a great gig. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Yeah, how you doing?
Oh, great.
Well, I'd like to talk to you. My name's Ed from Tampa. I'd like to talk to you about that Oscar guy.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I haven't been listening the last few days, but I understand he's just been giving you a real hard time. And what exactly is going on with him?
You're calling me to ask?
Yeah.
Did you hear anything I said at the beginning of the show?
No, I didn't listen to it.
Oh, too bad. Largo, you're on the air at 970 WFLA. Hi, Larg.
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah.
Hey, I heard some of the beginning of the show, and I've been called many times, but telephones, when I'm traveling around my car, are like policemen. You can't find them when you need them. I think most of these people that are so highly bigoted and disgustingly so, as a matter of fact. I was brought up in the South, and I still have some qualms when I'm in a group of blacks.
What does that have to do with psychoanalyzing some of the callers?
They have no firm...
No, we're talking about specific callers here, not theys.
Oh, okay. Well, Rocky is a totally insecure person, has no ideas of himself for himself, so he must take something that will upset somebody else and discuss it at length. And
Rocky's an extremely creative, clever man.
Oh, I don't think so.
Did you ever hear of Mr. Airstream?
Hear of who, sir?
Mr. Airstream?
No.
Then I guess I can't help you out on that one, but you'll have to take my word for it. Rocky has created a number of very interesting characters with some very, very funny material. He's a very creative man.
Well, his creativeness has certainly led him down a strange road. Anyway, thanks for talking.
Okay.
Oh, Bob, can I ask you how you spell your last name?
Lassiter, Lassiter.
Oh, okay. I saw a spelling the other day with an A-T-T-E-R. I was just curious. Your family's never had a horse thief, that's why.
No.
And the other guy did.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Unbelievable. I think we should analyze the people that have called in so far as opposed to the other ones. I'm sorry, gang. I like the idea. I'm going to stick with it. You guys do whatever you want. Let's go to Temple Terrace. Hi, Temple. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob. How are you?
Oh, great.
Excellent. Well, I think it's a great topic. It just takes a little while. People are kind of...
Yeah, I know. It's I wonder what other people think.
Right.
It's kind of like doing a poll. We have to hear what the answers are first before they can call up.
Yeah. I don't know. I think a lot of the chronics, and I guess in a lot of cases I could fit in that category, although I try not to call unless I have something to say. But it seems a lot of them are just don't have anything better to do. They're just kind of these lonely people, and this is what they do. I mean, like let's take Steve from Pinellas Park. Well, I mean, that's usually what he goes by, although he goes by several other names. I mean, that guy listens to every single program, it seems. He calls every single program. I rarely listen on weekends, but when I have turned on, it seems like there he is on Liz Richards or whatever. Always there. He's been every single person you can think of. He's done everything. He's been married. He's been divorced. He's had kids. He's not had kids. He's been in the heavy metal. He hasn't. He's lived in a black neighborhood. He's lived on the water in a condo. I mean, I don't know what to think about this guy. I just think he's just incredibly pathetic.
I'm not necessarily familiar with the individual that you're talking about. Maybe if I heard his voice, but the name in and of itself doesn't mean that much to me. It's real easy to understand some of the older callers. Oh, he also calls in as Jerry from Indian Rock.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, come on.
Michael just typed that up on the screen. It's really easy to understand some of the older callers who are, potentially shut-ins, listening, obviously, day in, day out to every miserable show. I wonder about some of the obviously younger people who are not necessarily nerds and fools and idiots, people who are at least somewhat articulate, may not have the best opinions and so forth and so on, but are not dummies. They're the ones I wonder about who listen every day.
Well, and I think he fits in that category. I mean, sometimes he seems like a nice guy, and I think, well, no, maybe he's not so bad after all. And he's obviously not very old. I would venture to say he's probably under 25 or at least under 30. So, he's never said anything about him being house or bedridden or something. So I don't know. But as far as like Peg,
the one that you're talking about, that I know is Jerry from Indian Rock.
Exactly.
He sounds to me just like a guy that probably isn't doing quite as well as he thinks he should. He's probably doing reasonably well, but not as well as he thinks he should be doing, and has this incredible inferiority complex.
But
that's what comes across to me.
But what does he do all day? Why? How does he support himself? I mean, he's home all day. He's always got the radio in the background. You can hear like music playing in the background when he calls. I
suppose it's a possibility that he works at night.
I don't know. I've heard him at night. I mean, he's always talking about music too. He's got every single tape, this, that, and the other. I mean, all I can just picture him is just sitting in this dark, dreary apartment, chain smoking and listening to talk radio through one, radio, and he's got his stereo going over here, man. I don't know.
Well, it's one of the problems of the materialistic society that we live in, that there are an awful lot of people who feel if they don't have a lot of material goods, that there's literally nothing else in life that matters except having a whole big bunch of stuff, so therefore they fib about it. So they don't quite understand that there are other things in life to enjoy. Hey, I love toys, I love material goods. But I also spend most of my life without them. And there are other things, too.
So what do we, I mean, I don't know how to think about these people. Whether to feel sorry for them or just let them do what they want and not worry about it. But it's kind of strange. I also like to say, too.
Do you really think about them?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do sometimes. I mean, I listen every single day. My excuse is, I'm out in the car all day long, and I'm home a lot because I check in and out all the time. So, that's when I call, when I drop in. Like, I just got off the road just now, walked in, and, made the call. But, it's like almost like a family. Even the callers, you had the ones you like, the ones you don't like. And I was going to say something about Peg. I wish she was, I don't know how old she is. I would venture to say she's probably at least in her 50s. But, I kind of wish she was my aunt. It's kind of the way I look at her. She just seems so intelligent and articulate.
Peg does seem to be a really neat lady.
She does, doesn't she?
I just got a letter from Peg today. Peg apparently has this love affair and hate affair off and on going with me. Because sometimes I'll get, brutal letters, just with tears obviously dripping onto the page as I'm going to never listen to you again. And then, 3 weeks later, I get this great, insightful letter. She seems like an interesting lady. Peg, it's my understanding, whether or not I'm right, who knows. But it's my understanding that Peg wanted, or did at least at some time, a talk show and would obviously like to have done more of it. And sometimes gets a little bitter and mean and angry about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know her as well as you do it. Then
I don't know her at all, except from her letters.
Well, yeah, at least you get letters. She hasn't sent me any letters.
Well, if you'll leave your address, I'll after I get through with them.
Well, she just seems so nice and very, very intelligent for, I don't mean to say for an older lady, but, it just seems like most older women aren't really into the worldly politics.
I don't think Peg is that quote-unquote old.
Well, I don't know. Like I said, she seems like maybe you're in her 50s. I don't know. Peg, if you're younger, please forgive me. But, she just seems like she'd be a good aunt.
I agree. I thank you much, Temple.
Okay, Bob.
Be good.
Bye-bye.
990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas. Largo, hi, Larg. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Well, hello, Bob.
Hi.
Well, basically, my excuse for listening was that I had, to stay home with my two younger children and to get my work accomplished around the house. The day would go much faster. I'd listen to radio. And talk radio was what really caught my interest. Now, characters that I used to think about a lot, I would list for you the ones that I used to really get excited about and stop and listen to them when they called in. And one was Carolyn from Newport Richie, and still is today. I think that woman is such an intelligent woman, and I wonder what she does with her life, what kind of work she does, if in fact she still works. I think she's younger, isn't she?
I believe Carolyn and her husband are retired.
Oh, really?
Yes. I believe that they were self-employed, had a business, and did very well at it, and are not exactly limousine liberals, but ain't hurting either.
Yeah, it's funny because doesn't she sound like a very, maybe because her ideas and her mind is so young, she just sounded to me like a younger person. I wouldn't put her much past 40. That surprises me.
She is much past 40.
Huh.
I won't tell you how old because I'm not exactly positive, but it's somewhere in the general area where people begin to think about retirement.
Be darned.
Peg, yeah. Carolyn and her husband, delightful people. I have met them both at the months that I can recall. Carolyn writes to me quite frequently, too. Yes, she sounds young because she is young in her mind.
Well, she's very well-read, and she's very informed. I mean, she's not just giving off an opinion. Half the time she's speaking, she's giving you facts.
I believe Carolyn has children somewhere in the age bracket of myself.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Maybe 5, 6, 7 years younger, but somewhere in that general vicinity.
Huh. Well, another person that I used to like to hear, and I was always fascinated about, how could this man constantly, I'd hear him in the morning, in the afternoon, all the whole lineup he would call during, and that was Orrin from Temple Terrace. And I was wondering, how could this man call all the time and be such a prominent business person that, he claimed to be?
I don't know that Orrin claimed to be a prominent business person. He was an employee. He was some type of an electrical engineer or something along those lines, some kind of an engineer, technician type of person. I believe that when Orrin first started calling, he was working an evening shift and consequently had a great deal of time available to him in the daytime with nothing better to do. He was relatively new in the area, recently divorced, didn't really have a great deal of friends, and so consequently he listened to the radio a lot. Then he was switched to a daytime shift and was unable to call in except in the late afternoon, very early morning or evening. And now has left the area. He's somewhere in Texas. San Antonio or something like that.
He seemed to be, every time I would hear his voice, he seemed to be like a really good pals with each and every one of you, especially Dick Norman. I mean, every time he called, it seemed like, well, hey, how's it going, guy,
Well, Orrin was such a delightful caller when he first started that everybody, the people who worked here, were extra nice to him. Then Orrin became somewhat of a groupie, which the other guys apparently didn't mind. It made me a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, but he was interesting and very, very well-read, very intelligent man, too.
Yes, he was. He was part of one of the Lassiter groups that I had in here.
Yes. Yeah, and he seems like he would be in his, mid-40s, if that?
I think it's probably more like mid-30s.
Mid-30s, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a very mature young man. Very mature, very level-headed.
And the one now that really, really fascinates me, and it's not because of that fact that I believe what he has to say, but he's, for entertainment value, I don't think you can find much better, and that's Lud.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know that's Lionel, don't you?
Oh, is it really?
Yes, it is.
How come I'm the last to find this out? I can't believe it.
Excuse me?
That was Lionel all the time?
Yes, all the time.
I didn't know that. Well, that was a really good put-on. It's almost as good as Mr. Airstream.
Very talented man.
Yes,
with a
he is.
Very interesting ability to pick up on voices and create characters.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. And finally, the only other person I'd like to bring up is Peggy from Tampa, because I just marvel at her every time she calls. I mean, sometimes she's like a raving witch, but she always has her facts there.
Well, there are some really neat ladies that call talk radio in this market, most of which drive other men and women crazy, which I'll never understand why. But Peg is definitely, or Peggy as you call her, is definitely in that category. TJ, Carolyn from Newport Richie. Gosh, there are 3 or 4 others that I'd like to throw in there whose names momentarily escape me. But there are an awful lot of really sharp women. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why they just drive people insane.
Well, I do. I love to hear them speak. I love to hear how articulate they are and how clearly they get their message across. And I think what drives people crazy, and if they're on an opposing view from me, is that they can say it better than I can, and they can argue me under the table. And honestly, that's always what makes me mad anyway. So, well, let me let you go.
Well, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. Bye.
Be good. Little bit of progress on this phone. Little bit of progress. You guys starting to catch on? 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas. When I talk about, amateur shrink there, we're not talking about ripping, bashing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Talking about some of these people who have entertained the hell out of you, entertained the hell out of me. We're not talking necessarily about chronics, but people who you are able to easily identify. Some of the people that have been around for a long time, some of them haven't been around for a long time. What makes them tick? Why do you think they call? Do you ever think about them? This should be interesting. Monticello, New York. Hi, Mont.
Hello, Bob Lassiter. I see you're talking about some of people's favorite callers. Obviously, I'm not listening to the program. My favorite caller of all time has to be the guy who called up from Minnesota a couple months ago, and you kept asking him if he paid his way down by selling cheese along the way, and the guy just never caught on to what you were talking about, and he said, no, I'm calling from Tampa every time you asked him that. What I want to know from you is when you're coming up to New York. I mean, I know these Tampa people seem to be monopolizing you, and we need talent in New York radio.
Well, buy a radio station and make me an offer. I am available for the New York market. Tampa, you're on there at 970 WFLA.
Yes, Bob?
Yes.
I like TJ. I think she is the most articulate.
Well, I'm not asking who you like. I'm asking you to talk about these people.
Well,
what do you think TJ is, TJ?
I think that she is so well-informed, so well-read, so articulate. I think she's a highly intelligent woman. And when I hear some of these screwballs that get on and start with this far left and liberal and whatnot, I don't think they know what they're talking about. I don't think they even understand half of the things that she's talking about. But I think she's terrific, and I love to listen to her. I always learn something from her. So that's one of my favorites.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. Guys are disappointing the hell out of me today. You really, really are. All I asked you to do is put your thinking caps on. Tampa, you're on there at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
I listen basically because of you. I mean, yesterday had to be the best show you've done since the Christmas show. And I was literally glued to my radio. I couldn't turn it off. It was like reminiscent of old-time radio where people used to sit in front of their radio. It wouldn't move. They'd meet every night at a certain time to listen to a special show. Unfortunately, the adverse material, the reason why it came about that show was because of circumstances that weren't very pleasant.
Did you want to have anything at all to do with the conversation I'm dealing with today?
Yeah.
Well, could you get to it?
Well, I'm sorry. I just had to tell you that, it was unbelievable. I listened to talk radio because of the talk show host, not so much for the callers.
So you didn't have anybody that you wanted to, psychoanalyze today?
You mean anybody in particular?
Yeah.
No, I don't particularly.
Thank you ever so much. Clearwater, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Do you mind if I do a little group analysis of these frequent callers?
Sure.
I know I call all the time, but I don't consider myself amongst this group. I think what it is that the people whose names you can name, TJ, Rocky, or the Pinko from Safety Harbor or something, it's not the names, it's the positions that they take are there's something that's thought out and stands out above the others. I'm a run-of-the-mill caller. I could be a groupie or whatever, but I could say my name, but nobody would remember me. There's nothing about me that stands out above the others. But when you listen to, like, when Lionel would call, there would be something distinctive that about his viewpoint.
Well, most of the people that we are talking about, at least to this point, do have distinctive voices. No two ways about it.
Right, but it's not just the distinctive voices. They also have opinions that you have to think about. Colorful personalities that come out, along with those opinions that paint a picture. Mm-hmm. And I think that when those callers call, I get this picture in my mind of this person. It's not just a voice.
Why do you think these people devote hours upon hours upon hours daily, weekly, to get a few minutes on the radio?
Why would they devote all that time?
To the sign of sickness, a sign of health? Why?
Well, then you have to. I look at society. I think that it's a trend. People they probably have a strong need to interact with others, and this is a safe, convenient way of doing it without having to leave the home.
Do you ever think about the Brandon Brain lady on Christmas?
No, not I personally.
Why not?
Because I haven't. I mean, I'm.
Do you ever think about any of them?
Yeah,
when you're not listening to them.
Oh, when I'm not listening? Yeah, there are times that I do, but I mean, it's not in particular thing. I don't know. I'm probably a pretty self-centered person, like most people. I've got my own concerns, that about my own life and whatnot. And it's only when the radio's on and I'm listening that I'm able to think about these other people, and I might ponder it then. I might ponder what they may be thinking about, or how something might affect them, or how they might respond to something, some topic that might be on.
Thank you, my friend.
Okay.
Be good.
Okay, you too.
Go away. Would you do us both a favor? A lot of nice people sometimes call up, and because they want to talk about things that they want to talk about, which is known as being off topic. I have basically two choices when you do that. I can allow you to ramble on and destroy my show that I've taken some time to set up, or I can be pretty rough and tough on you so that the second guy doesn't do it. Okay? Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA. Great. Tampa follows direction as well. Tampa, you're on the air at 970 WFLA. So Tampa sitting there listening literally to my talking in his ear, but he's also trying to listen on the radio in hopes that he can hear himself. Geez, Tampa chicken. We'll wait for Tampa to get back to the radio there. Tampa chicken out because Tampa's a weenie. Let's try this Tampa line. Hi, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
I'd like a shot at some armchair analysis, I guess.
I would certainly hope so. Apparently, a number of people think I've asked them to explain the theory of relativity.
Well, I'm not quite ready for that, but I got my slide rule out, and my couch is ready to go here.
Many people listening to the show have their slide rules out.
I think as a general rule, a lot of callers and longtime listeners maybe have a certain alienation. I think we're less alike as a community. And, you used to talk about, how everyone used to know neighbors and things like that. I think there's a lot less of that, and people enjoy maybe the anonymity of radio.
Well, that's one of the reasons that talk radio succeeds is because there is less and less of that. But don't you ever think about some of these turkeys, some of these poor souls?
Oh, yeah. But the radio, there's a certain magic to it. At least to me, I
want, let me give you an example.
Please do.
I want Southside Johnny to be what he says he is. I'm just afraid that he isn't.
I feel sorry for the guy. I don't know
exactly
what his deal is.
I want Johnny to be rich. I want Johnny to be having this wife who's always going, well, I sent her to Milwaukee on a shopping spree. That's why she's not here. I want that to be true. I'm afraid that it isn't.
Sometimes I'm afraid that it is with someone like Rocky. But I don't know how genuine he is either. But I think it's funny. How many of us thought Lionel was, my picture was a Jewish New York lawyer, maybe in his late 40s or something.
Well, that's probably what he wanted you to think.
Exactly. But it's great. It's magical, in a way.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes I don't like characters unless the character is so broad that everybody knows it's a character. I think when somebody calls into a talk radio show and pretends to be something that they're not without everybody knowing it, that it's somehow it's perpetrating a fraud.
I tend to agree, though I appreciate a lot of the characters like Jacob and stuff, but I guess I would really worry that I would get caught and be very embarrassed, caught on the air.
I always talked about Jacob wasn't for real. It's not my fault that people didn't hear it.
No, and I think the first 2 or 3 times I heard the guy, I really thought he was real.
Oh, so did I. Probably the first dozen times.
Yeah, just a little further down the road it came. But that guy was wonderful. Anyway, I think the alienation is a big part of it because a lot of us even care about the issues and stuff, and we wonder why maybe coworkers or neighbors don't. You don't necessarily just go across the street and start talking about, what's going on in China or something, if you know what I mean. But with the radio, there's suddenly a lot of people out there who you can throw that kind of thing off of. So,
thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Be good. I again will point out that it would be a tremendous opportunity for those of you who are not regular callers, for those of you who freeload day in and day out, to comment on some of the people who are regulars, to comment on some of the people who literally make this format, to analyze them, if you will. But, hey, if you just want to be a good-for-nothing freeloader, you sit right there and freeload your little hearts out, and who knows, maybe someday you'll get yourself down to 5 or 6 people calling in. In the news, state 970 WFLA.
Hey, listen, I have to call you and tell you something. You are in a whole bunch of trouble.
I am.
With Tim. Yes, he's real mad at you because he said you were really bad-mouthing him the other day, and I told him I didn't hear your show.
Why would I badmouth Tim?
Well, he's real upset. He's on his show there today, and he said, like, any of these listeners that heard the show to tell him what you said.
Oh.
Yes.
You didn't know what I said.
Well, I don't know what you said because I don't listen to you.
You don't listen, Ryan.
I know I don't. I was just listening to Tim.
Rose?
Yeah, you and Jay Marvin.
Rose, I don't talk about Tim.
Well, he said that you did something this week because he heard you himself.
Well, Tim and
he said he listened to you on the way home from work.
Oh, well, of course, everybody listens to me on the way home from work.
And then he said you listened to him on the way into work.
Well, he's mistaken about that. I usually come in before he goes on.
No, you don't, because he goes on at 2.
Right, I'm usually in here before 2.
Well, anyway, he's real mad at you. I'm telling you the truth right now.
Whoa!
Yeah, he really is.
Whoa!
Okay, then. What do you say? Bye.
Bye.
Where's the beat?
Not there, that's for sure. Clear Water, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hey, Bob.
Hi, Clear.
Hey, would you please elaborate for me a little bit more on Jacob? That's why I called. I mean, I called to talk about Jacob, and then you threw a bombshell at me there.
Well, talk about Jacob. How do you see him?
Well, I can't see him as being as religious as he sounds on the radio, that's for sure.
Well, you see, that's the whole point. He doesn't sound religious on the radio. If you listen to him very carefully, he is utterly nothing. Nothing. That's how I caught on.
Well, he seemed like a Mormon type or something. I mean, oh, no, I'd never do that. I wouldn't do that. I mean...
Well, it's a character that this young man has created. It's a, or was, because he's no longer on this show.
Yeah.
It's a, I can't think of the word. It's a characterization. It's a cartoon character. It's an exaggeration.
Well, in a way, I feel kind of disappointed because...
Why? There are lots of Jacobs in this world.
Oh, really?
Sure, we got a guy, Scott from Clearwater, the weasel in the dress. He is for real.
Oh, yeah. Well, he ranks right up there, too, yeah. But, I just found it hard to believe that anybody could be that strict in their ways. And
But there are such people.
Yeah, well, Mormons, I guess. What?
Southern Baptists, fundamentalists, Pentecostals, Church of God people in some cases, a lot of cases.
Right.
There are tons and tons of such people who are very, very strict in their views towards other people.
Well, I just wish that maybe, seeing how Jacob's out of the question and there's only Scott and Clearwater, I would find it a little more entertaining if one of the people out there who are a little strict in their ways could find some time to give you a call, because it really gives me a lot of energy.
I'm sure that you would appreciate it, but I certainly wouldn't hold my breath waiting.
Oh, no, me either. All right, well, thank you, Bob.
Okay, downtown Tampa. Hi, Down. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
If you'd like to make a call, please hang up.
Not particularly. Unbelievable. You people are really asleep at the wheel today. But, hey, such is life. You've got to live with what you have to live with. Let's go to... Oh, the other 3 dropped off, too. I don't care. I got 2 hours. 2 hours. Yeah, I have that, too. I have 2 minutes to the top of the hour. I mean, it's abundantly clear what the hell I'm looking for. If you're too damned lazy... I'm too damn lazy to sit here and pull your teeth, I'll just drum on the console here so that, you guys know I'm still here. What the problem was. Hi, welcome back. 11 and a half minutes after the hour, 4 o'clock Thursday, the 15th day in the month of June, 1989. Apparently, they were working some kind of experiment at the transmitter location, and they had this filter on that made everything I said come through the microphone and out the antenna, something like because obviously nobody understood what I was saying in that first hour, but I understand they've taken that filter off. And we're cooking with gas again. A lot of gas. Riverview. Hi, River. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Afternoon, Bob.
Afternoon, River.
I just wanted to bring up one point about some of your kind of callers. I don't hear him very much anymore. I think his name was it Bob from Valrico?
Well, Bob from Valrico was never a chronic caller on this program.
Well, I think you intimidated him to the point where he didn't want to call you up, but I heard him on other shows. And he always reminded me of my uncle back up in New York at the Elks Club of the VFW, sitting around pounding down beers. And I don't know if that was an act or not. I don't think it was, but...
I don't believe so. I do know that we used to, at least, perhaps the individual is still here. We knew somebody who knew him.
Well, that was not Cookie, right?
Well, yeah, that's Valrico Cookie. They're one of the same.
And who was the other guy, Rocky? He wasn't the Cookie guy?
No, Rocky is not the Cookie guy. It was Valrico Bob, who was always talking about his tenure in the Marines, which apparently was, primarily as a cook.
Right.
Where there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a cook, but when you fail to kind of mention it and you kind of give the impression that you're the one that taught John Wayne how to, charge a hill.
Mm-hmm. Well, he had a very one-sided way of looking at everything. That's why he always fascinated me. I mean, no matter what...
fascinating man.
Yeah, what it was is that he had this one attitude towards things, and that was it. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. It was his way or no way.
Well, there's another thing, too, with Valrico Cookie. He preferred to call up and make a statement and then just be gone. Valrico Cookie never really enjoyed getting into a give and take in conversation. He just liked to come on, hit and run, and get out.
And who was that other one that used to call you Moose all the time? I think it was Peggy?
No, that's Diane in Tampa.
Diane. She had the most aggravating voice that I could think of. I just picture her. Now, I don't know how these people have time to call all the time. I guess that's why they're chronic callers, naturally, but...
I'm not talking about chronic callers, and besides, Diane in Tampa calls me perhaps once a month. She calls Lionel a lot.
Yeah.
But she doesn't call me all that often.
Well, I would call you more often. I would be right on that list, but you're a very intimidating person.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want the same people on every day. I think that, a week and a half, once in that time period, is ideal. Maybe 2 weeks when it's extra busy.
Right. Well, I've called you before on topics. I like calling on passion calls, something that really I'd just be listening to you, and all of a sudden, boom, I just make a run for the phone because you just hit a grass root or something. But I don't know, you... I'll call other callers, naturally. I've called, I used to call Dick Norman quite a bit. And, but it's not so much that I disagree with you. I agree with you 90% of the time, but it's just your air about you. You are a very intimidating person, which I guess that's what makes you so popular. And, that's all I really have to say.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye.
Off we go to Town and Country. Hi, Town. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Good day, Bob. I'd like to talk to you about Rose, the lady that never listens. Not that this is going to surprise anyone, but I'd like to set the record straight. I work in the same supermarket deli as she does. She talks about you all the time. She never, ever, ever stops. She listens to you every day for 3 hours a day. Her life revolves around you, Bob Lassiter.
Rose appears to...
Hey, wait for this microphone talking. Be quiet, I'm talking now. Bob, if you ever interrupt me again, now let me finish what I'm saying.
Tell you what, some people, I'll be darned if that Bob Lassiter, Okay, anyways, all day she talks about Bob Lassiter. Bob Lassiter this, Bob Lassiter that.
What a pathetic little guy you are. This is your only outlet, isn't it?
How dare you put me down? Oh, God, I can't believe this. You can't say those things. You can't say... I'll sue you, Bob. Can I finish now?
You finished a long time ago, friend. You never started. I don't want to talk to line 3. It's just not appropriate here. I'm not going to let this one get away from me. Clearwater. Hi, Clear. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Mr. Lassiter.
Yes, sir.
You recognize me, you into a corner with his innuendos and all the other things, and I want to vindicate the Dr. Sobel. I've been off cigarettes for 3 months.
Tell me, was just that silver off.
Okay. So I get the urge once in a while. But this character who had the audacity using, and I think that what you should pursue, Mr. Lassiter, is that anybody who is in the profession as a lawyer and uses another name should be disbarred, because you're the most honest person in the area. You're the conscience of Tampa Bay, and I just want to let you know.
Well, thank you so much for letting us know. St. Petersburg. Saint, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello, Bob?
Yes.
Hi, this is Marie calling.
Hi, Marie.
Listen, I just wanted to call and put you on the analyst couch for a switch.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Okay, are you there? Are you comfortable?
Yep.
Okay, well, I just, I was kind of wondering if you're so tense, you're so intense, a little neurotic at times. I was wondering if you might be a little sexually frustrated.
I think everybody is, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I know I am when I listen to your show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think you have a really sexy voice.
Mm-hmm.
And just wanted to let you know that.
Okay.
Okay, and you're a very interesting character yourself.
Well, thank you very much.
Have a good day.
You too there. I know the filter's still on. I'm positive it is. St. Petersburg. Saint, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Good afternoon, Bob.
Good afternoon.
My favorite caller is the woman with the British accent that's so in love with Dan Quayle.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've figured out she must have the hots for Dan, because he's done absolutely nothing of any note at any time. So that could be the only reason she's so crazy about Danny.
Okay.
You agree, disagree? No comment, huh?
Well, wasn't necessarily here to debate with you. I was just asking people, that kind of play amateur shrink. And,
well, yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean who's your favorite caller. That's not...
Well, no, not my favorite. I was trying to...
...purpose of the show at all.
Right.
But
no, I understand.
I just thought that... Well, I guess I'm just a fool, but I just thought that, there were some people out there who listen to talk radio, who enjoy talk radio, and who thought about and cared about some of the people that make talk radio possible for them. Obviously, I'm wrong. But such is life.
Well, you can't bat 1,000 every time, right?
Sure you can. You stick with it until 6 o'clock, come hell or high water. Newport Richie, you're on there at 970 WFLA.
Yeah, afternoon, Bob.
Afternoon.
I'll tell you what. We've talked on many occasions. Not many, but pretty good. We've talked about a dozen times. You've never hung up on me. We've always had a pretty good discussion. All right? I'm going to say one or two things. You're talking about what makes a regular caller and,
No, it's not what I'm talking about at all. Not even close to what I was talking about.
Not even close to what you're talking
Not even close. No.
Well, from what I've been hearing, Bob, you want to know what makes a chronic caller a chronic caller.
No, sir. No, that's not at all what I asked. But thanks for the effort anyway. Well, better listen.
Oh, hi, Bob.
It's the Gary McHenry song. Oh, excuse me, just a second, Gary.
Yeah.
Michael, why did you play Gary's song 35 seconds late?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Bob. I couldn't get it in the cart deck.
Oh.
It was my fault. I'm sorry.
Our most humble apologies, Gar. Gabbing with that other bozo over on the FM, weren't you, Gar?
No.
Uh-huh.
How do you know? You don't know.
I'm sitting here across the hall.
Prove it.
I was listening in cue to you on the FM.
Fibber.
I am not.
Fibber.
I could run off all your accidents, too.
Well, you better not. It's my job.
Huh.
Do it, then.
Yeah.
Heck of a lot easier. I could come in there and push buttons a lot easier than you could do this, buddy.
Collectively too busy today or something. So could you call me up and say, Lassiter, I am not smart enough to respond to this. I mean, I don't want to push it if only the dummies are listening today, and you can't quite comprehend, for example, playing amateur shrink, psychoanalyzing someone, does not constitute, her voice bothers me. It's too high. That is not psychoanalyzing someone. But psychoanalyzing someone is trying to suggest, trying to figure out, trying to guess at even, if need be, why certain individuals are the way they are. Not how do we discern a chronic caller from, it's, no. For example, Rocky is not a chronic caller. But Rocky would be a great caller, to psychoanalyze. Right? Okay. Tom from Lutz. Perfect in there. Tom from Lutz would be a great call to psychoanalyze. Now, apparently the word psychoanalyze is not known amongst the people listening to this program today who have a telephone. So therefore, if you are too dumb to be able to handle this topic, would you please call me up and tell me? And if you're not too dumb to handle it, the number is 461-9352 in Pinellas County, 461-9352. In Hillsborough County, 990-9352, 990-WFLA. You see, I thought that maybe you people actually thought about these people sometimes, and maybe even had an opinion about, not their voices or anything like that, had an opinion about the people behind them. I was wondering, for example, I had mentioned earlier in the show, did you ever wonder about, the Brandon Brain lady? Unfortunately, I don't have any time left to talk to you this hour. So I've got to wait, ask you to wait for the news at the bottom of the hour, and, and so forth and so on, and it'll be 6-7 minutes. 7. Sarasota, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing? This is Dave. I want to talk about Oscar yesterday. Hello?
Yeah.
What was the deal between you and him? That I caught the last part of it.
Gee, I thought you wanted to talk about it. Let's go to Lakeland. You're on the air at 970 pity poo. Lakeland couldn't hold. Such is life. It's tough, I tell you. It really is. A lot of stuff to do in Lakeland to occupy your time. Clearwater, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Clearwater?
Yep.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Listen, I don't know if this is what you want to know, but I'd like to talk about Diane. I have an affinity with that lady.
Mm-hmm.
She never calls about politics or anything real serious, except to her. She calls when it comes to the AIDS, to the child abuse, and I think that lady hurts. And she wants people to know that there are others out there like her.
Why do you think she hurts? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, it's happened to her. She has said as much. And I get tears in my eyes. Her voice, this is not a put-on. Diane is one of the most honest callers I think you've got. I've listened to her since PLP, and she's, well, I just like to say I'd like to meet her in person, just to talk to her. And I wish it were possible, but she's the one that really gets me. I hate the politics, the stuff that's way above my head most times. Diane is right at the level where most people are. And I'm afraid anybody that doesn't like to listen to Diane, I've heard several say something about her voice. Her voice has got tears in it. Do you understand?
Well, I understand that that's the way that you listen to it, that that's the way you hear it. Of course I do.
Yes, that's exactly how I feel. She's great. Peg Mims is intelligent. Carolyn, I love to listen to her, too. I wished I were that intelligent. But Diane she's been there. And it comes out. You can hear it. I wish people had paid more attention, because this is the stuff that's going on right where you live.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Bob.
990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas. Well, speaking of chronic, let's go
making fun of me again.
I'm not making fun of you.
You always make little snide
I was
comments.
referring to the chronic traffic conditions that we have in this area.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's
Chronic
the
traffic conditions.
Chronic traffic conditions.
You got your chronic condition right here.
Yeah. That's a chronic condition, huh? For damn sure. Gary McHenry, all alone on the telephone. Way up above it all with an airborne WFLA traffic real estate agent. And they talk to everybody. 264-2648, Town and Country Mortgage and Investment. Sarasota. Hi, Sarah. You're on the air, 970 WFLA.
Good afternoon, Bob.
Afternoon.
There's one caller that you have that I have not heard mentioned, and that's this guy that's got a voice like, he introduces everything with, and at the moment of conception, there's life.
Well, he doesn't call me. You're talking about Richard from, I believe, it's
Richard
Clearwater.
from St. Petersburg, I think.
Whatever. He doesn't call me, strangely enough.
I think that he is a eunuch who was emasculated at a very early age. And if he were to ever have a girlfriend, she would have to come with her own set of instructions because the guy would have no idea. And then he's got the audacity to, number one, being pseudo-male, that he is going to dictate to a woman what she can or cannot do with herself. And it's like the fingernails going across the chalkboard. It just, every time I hear his voice, his attitude, his opinions, it just drives me, and I'm in the car all the time. I listen to you all the time, but very rarely get to the phone. And
one of the things that amuses me with this particular guy is he seems to have a fair knack for figuring out who is not going to give him any grief at all, will let him get his little 30-second speech in, and he just seems to know, which, unfortunately, the guy's preaching to the choir, and he doesn't quite seem to understand that.
That's the best way I could put it. You have another caller, Danny the Dodger. This guy's got to take a record for getting the most amount of you knows into one sentence. And it's a shame for someone that seems to be intelligent to not be able to articulate what it is they want to say, or not to think out what it is they want to say far enough in advance. They're acting mostly upon emotion as opposed to knowledge. And it's kind of distressing because I think the guy could make very good points over a period of discussion, but he doesn't have the wherewithal or the forethought to prepare.
Isn't that the case with most people, though? Most people are, reasonably intelligent, but lack the communication skills.
Well, I'm not Mr. Articulation by any means, but I like to be able to think that at least I can make people understand what it is I want to say without having to go around. Well, around and that sort of thing.
See, one of the things I think that we do in our schools that is so very, very bad is that most of the time when you're in school, i.e., another way of phrasing it, your formative years, when you are called upon to talk, it's a chore. It's not a joy. Bob, who captured Montana in 1722? God, I don't know. I don't want to talk. I don't want to get up and say things. Oh, this is awful. I think our schools will do a hell of a lot better to make communication more fun and much less of a chore, something to be fearful of.
I'm very close to your age, and I can remember, just as though it were yesterday, when I was in school, public school here in Sarasota. In the third grade, the teacher would start, we'd all have the same lesson book, and she would say, okay, the first person on the right chair in the first row, you start reading. You screw up, it goes to the next person, and it goes to the next person.
Yeah. They used to do that to us, too.
But it works. Because I was so afraid that I was going to screw up and embarrass myself that I went home and I would practice reading. I'd have my mother look over my shoulder and I'd say...
Well, you say it works. It works for you. Most people don't read.
Now they don't.
When they get out of school, they want nothing to do with it.
Now they don't. But I think most people my own age, or our own age, do read. And they just read the papers. They check the newscast on TV. They're more or less familiar with current affairs. The younger people, and we have a small rental complex here, the people who rent from us could care less, and they're much younger.
That way to me, too. My friend, I've got to break in. Speaking of, people our age and older, Don Richards, you've probably heard of before, second most respected news person.
I remember him well.
Yeah, Don Richards standing by with the WFLA News Brief.
Nice
Thank
talking
you.
with you. Thank you, Bob.
The governor has asked the state Supreme Court to dismiss a challenge to his right to call a special legislative session, a second one on the same topic, transportation. Challenge comes from a Tampa legislator. It was the Europa Sun to the rescue. A boat ran into trouble out in the Gulf of Mexico this afternoon. Kendall Truitt on duty at the Mayport Naval Station.
970 WFLA.
Yeah, I'm on. Bob, I'm a first-time caller, and I listen to you as I travel. And I don't know many of your listeners, so it's really hard to psychoanalyze them. I think people that, in my position, kind of like to psychoanalyze you.
Okay.
So I think, in my opinion, listening to you, you're a person who is very talented, very intimidating, and you are adversarial, and I think people like to kind of get a shot at you.
Mm-hmm.
And I would guess you're egocentric, and you feed on people's accolades, and you get hurt just like anybody else, and perhaps confused sincerely spiritually.
Ah, it's religion.
Not necessarily.
Well, what do you mean
but I sense
spiritually?
that in you.
Well, what do you mean spiritually, sir?
Well, I hear you making comments and making some statements that, would lead me to believe you have some questions.
No, sir, I don't have any questions at all for me. I got questions for you.
That's right.
You see, I happen to be perhaps one of the very few people in this world on this planet who has made his spiritual decisions. I seek advice from no one on them. I don't lay awake at night wondering whether or not I'm going to be taken off to the afterlife or if the Savior's coming tomorrow. No, sir, I have no spiritual problems whatsoever. You just kind of hope I did. You would like me to be more like you.
Well, that's my psychoanalyzation of you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's anybody's.
Except that it's not valid because I don't ask questions.
Uh-huh.
Not of myself. I ask questions of you.
But
I
when we
question yours.
psychoanalyze, we look inside of people and we kind of try to think what they're thinking.
Well,
See,
what have I ever said, sir, that would give you any indication whatsoever?
Well, it's your philosophy, the way you deal with people. I think that I just sense it and feel a fabric of that going through all of your talk.
Could you be a little bit more specific when you say my philosophy and the way I deal with people?
Well, no, I couldn't be more specific. I'll have to leave.
In other words,
it
you just hope that I'm searching religiously.
Not necessarily.
Well, not necessarily.
I think you're an interesting person. I think you've got a lot on the ball, and I think it's interesting listening to you.
Well, thank
but
you very
a lot
much.
of what you say is like perfume. I don't swallow all of it. It's good to smell.
Well, what don't you swallow?
Well, just a number of things. But you're
Well, could you
interesting.
give me a specific or two?
Well, maybe. No, I don't want to get into it with you right now. It's not a war worth winning.
Who said you were being fought with, sir? I was just curious as to what you don't agree with, rather.
Well, there are a number of things. Maybe politically.
Maybe politically. You seem to be a man without definitives. It's maybe politically, perhaps this. May want to consider, going into psychoanalysis, sir. One of the things that, wrong with people in this life is that they just don't have anything they can really sink their teeth into. Life is so maybe-ish. I don't know. One more hour yet to go, please.
From Tampa, Florida, the nation's gizzard. It's the Magnificent Lassiter Show, starring the Magnificent Lassiter. Featuring the nimble fingers of Michael Serio at the control board, the second most respected newsman, Don Richards, and the world's most dangerous traffic reporter, Gary McHenry. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Lassiter.
Well, thank you there, Mr. Announcer. 12 minutes after the hour of 5 o'clock. It is a Thursday, June the 15th, 1989. And I know that many, if not most of you, have just recently joined the program in progress here. And I've got to tell you an absolutely unbelievably incredible chain of events has taken place during the past 2 hours. First of all, the first hour, the engineering department put some type of filter that they were testing in the transmitter that caused almost everything I said to come out as gibberish, that no one understood what I was talking about. Then, as soon as we got that taken out, apparently Fidel Castro testing a new jamming transmitter on this frequency made everybody think I was talking in Spanish. And they didn't understand what I was talking about. Then when they shut that down, the competition, the plate people, apparently, this is just rumor, but apparently they set off some mind-altering gas through the sewer system that caused everybody, this is a very selective gas, caused everybody with an IQ over 38 and a telephone to be paralyzed, only leaving people with an IQ under 38 with two exceptions. I can't mention who those two exceptions were. Leaving people with an IQ under 38 and telephones as the only hope that we had. Never before has a group of circumstances come together to destroy an otherwise good program. It is my understanding that the mind gas has dissipated. That the Cubans are on siesta. And since it's after 5 o'clock, not an engineer can be found. So therefore, the filter, the interference, and the gas are no longer factors. And we should be able to proceed with the program that should have been a hit from the first into the third hour. It all started this way. Yesterday, towards the end of the show, guy calls up and wants to psychoanalyze me. That's cool. No problem. So I'm sitting around today saying, well, wait a second. That's just me. What about all the people that call? You know, the TJs and the Carolines and the ones that drive the listeners insane. What a great opportunity it would be for the listeners to be able to psychoanalyze some of the more colorful callers. Well, as I said, because of this incredible string of circumstances, apparently only blips and bleeps of what I was saying were actually getting out. There were people that thought I wanted to know who had the most obnoxious voice. There were people that thought I wanted to know what constitutes a chronic caller. And perhaps 2, 3 during the course of the last 2 hours had any idea at all as to what I was talking about, even though I had started out by doing some myself and, you know, trying to give the audience... All the Pinellas lines are tied up. Hillsborough lines are available at 461-9352, 461-WFLA. I've just been handed a note from the Public Safety Department. They tell me they are not totally sure if all of the debilitating gas has subsided in Hillsborough County. There still may be pockets. So if you are, paralyzed with an IQ over the 38 and paralyzed from going to the phone, then that's probably what's happening. Largo, you're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Bob.
Yes.
I fell asleep 20 minutes ago. If it wasn't for the news, I'd have never woke up. I've been on hold that long at least.
Well, 29 minutes, yes.
Bob.
Yes.
I got an answer for your question. I think that everybody wants to have the solution for society and come up with a different way of doing things, or a better way anyway. I think that your callers just happen to have time to give you a jingle and wait for the phone to be answered. But I think that has a lot to do with it. Any comment? Just a thought now, okay?
Well, I think that answers the question absolutely correct.
Not completely, okay? And my vocabulary is probably...
Tickets for this caller since the answer to the question correct?
Hey, I want to make a comment to the guy that called in here about 30 minutes ago and said that nobody under 40 or however old he said he was, cares about current events and what's happening in the world. Mm-hmm. I got a rebuttal to that. All these young people that are under that age haven't got time to call up and get involved like they'd like to. They're out there busting their rumps, trying to make a living out there in the world that the people in your generation created. Is that a different aspect?
My generation created, sir?
Sure.
What did my generation create in?
The world that we're living in today. just like I'll create, you know, a different world for the kids that I have in this time.
Well, it's funny. It's just that, you know, several years ago, it was the people who were younger who had the time to take an active role, and the people who were older used to use the very excuse that you're using now.
Yeah, well, that's a possibility, but, you know, I'm out there in the world, and I'll tell you what, it's not easy to...
Cut your hair. I work all day. I don't have time to get involved in these silly wars and drafts. Just cut your hair and shut up.
I'm very involved. As a matter of fact, I'm a 4-year Air Force veteran, and I spent some time overseas, and I do give a care about what's going on in the world today. But I happen to know that it's not easy making a living out there today. And I would like to see some of these callers that have all this time to sit around on hold and wait for you to pick up, and they can give their opinion on what's to be done. I'd like to see them organize and do something about what's going on out there today. And that's coming from, you know, from the bottom of my heart. I'm talking sincerely to you, okay?
Might I inquire as to whether or not you can recall the first thing that you said when you got on the air today?
What's that?
You talked about how long you'd been on hold.
Yeah. I couldn't wait. Hey, I had to call and say something. This is first-time caller, by the way.
Great.
I listen to you guys all the time on the road, and I'm here, there, and everywhere, and I just don't have time to stop and call. I wish I did. I wish I could comment more on what you guys talk about. You have some great topics, but, more than that, I'd really like to see some things organized, and I'd like to see some of these retiree folks, senior citizens, I'd like to see them get involved more than they are.
Sure, that's in essence what gave us Ronald Reagan and George Bush.
Yeah, really.
Thank you much.
You bet.
Take care.
Hey, Gar.
Hi, Bob.
Gar, let's be honest with each other for a change. My show's a bomb, Gar.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about.
Yeah. Hydrogen bomb.
Yeah, big bomb.
Gar, do you think you could bail me out maybe with, some fox fetching? Where are you going to be fox fetching this weekend?
Oh, I'm glad you asked me that, Roberto, the Mighty Lassiter. Lakeland, buddy. Big-time doings in Lakeland. I know people probably think,
fox fetching's far better in Sonoma Sassa than Lakeland. Everybody knows that.
No, it doesn't even compare. I mean, we kid around a lot. There might even be people out there thinking he doesn't really go out fox fetching. He doesn't go to all these places that he says he's going to be. They probably think, we're just kidding. This weekend, buddy, it's all going to change.
Yeah, Gar, how's that?
Saturday, Lakeland, in person, me, the Bronze Washboard in Lakeland.
Yeah, but it didn't do any good in Sonoma Sassa. It wasn't going to do any good in, Lakeland.
Oh, but because the Mellons girls are going to be there, too.
Go. The Mellons girls are going to be in Lakeland?
as Bob starts rapidly clearing his calendar. Big Olin Mott Tire Store, grand opening, 733 South Florida Avenue in Lakeland, noon to 3 this Saturday. It is Big Gare with free melons, free wings, lots of giveaways. Come see Gare and the Mellons girls.
Gary.
And they're going to be giving away a whole bunch of their melons.
Gary, the Mellons girls don't hang around tire stores.
They are, because I'm going to be there. They weren't going to go, and then they said, Garrow's going to be there, and they all, they just jumped up and down with glee.
Excuse me, Garrett, just 1 second. I want to talk to the audience for a moment. Could you just kind of look out the window, see if there are any tie-ups?
Okay,
ladies and gentlemen, McHenry has really gone off the deep end. He's now trying to fox fetches at a tire store that's opening in Lakeland. Please, we're very worried about him. If you're a fox, if you know a fox, please show up at the tire store. Gary just can't take too many more of these lonely weekends.
Gar. Yo, Gar.
Yeah.
Hey, how's traffic looking with your airborne WFLA traffic report?
Washboard. Traffic on the Howard Franklin Bridge, east and west.
Supposed to go to you.
Who was supposed to share the donuts with me?
Gary, as in McHenry. They're flying around up in the sky.
Well, I'm sure that he meant to. The truth of the matter is I rarely see Gary. Gary does not come into the station very often, and when he does, I'm usually not here. I've not seen Gary in probably 3 or 4 months. Last time I saw Gary, it was at a bar. He had 3 foxes on his arm, left with none.
Poor Gary.
True story, too. He needs the donuts.
Yeah, well.
He would have given them to me if he saw me. I'm sure he would have.
Well, they were at the station, so you probably had a better chance of getting them than he did.
Well, by the time I arrive at the station, it's pretty well cleaned out. The people who work here in the earlier part of the day are ravenous people.
I think maybe they broke their promise and maybe they ate them.
Or possibly Teddy Carreras found them, as Michael is typing up on the screen. And Teddy Carreras has been known to eat doors, let alone donuts. I thank you very much.
Okay,
so
sure one of these days I'll make sure they get over there and you get them.
I'll check with McHenry next time I speak with him. That I promise. Also, another possible problem with donuts left around the station, none other than Don Richard McHenry.
Yeah. What?
I don't want to burst your bubble or nothing. Much. But, I just talked to the salesperson. The truth of the matter is, when the client in Lakeland, when they first got in touch, they asked for me. But then they figured, whoa, wait a second. This guy's going to draw too many foxes. This is a tire store. We want guys who want to buy tires here. They're going to what are foxes? Foxes don't hang around tire stores.
Yeah.
So then we suggested you. We had this big meeting downstairs, and we said, who can we possibly send over to Lakeland with a hope, with a guarantee of not drawing one fox?
Wouldn't you know?
So we call up the client. The client says, holy moly, you guys are right. Give me McHenry.
It's like putting up a big shell no fox strip, isn't it?
Yes, I guess it is.
That's okay. I'm going to fool them. We're all going to fool them. All of my legion of foxes, we are going to fool them.
There's not going to be one fox there.
The Mellons girls.
As well as I do.
Lots of Mellons girls. They're all foxes.
Yeah, but they're paid to be there.
No, ordinarily they are, but they volunteered this time.
And I understand. Well, let's just tell the people how to get home. Gary McHenry.
Are you going to burst my bubble some more?
Maybe next week.
You got something under your breath, I can tell.
Do not. Gary McHenry, Airborne Traffic Report.
I'm glad you didn't get any donuts.
Do it, Gary.
You're
glad. Are helmets the future of bicyclists? Summer toys, the ones that are safe and the ones that are not. How do you raise a sexually healthy child? Your bill for veal could go up soon. All this and more tomorrow on Gardner and Company. I'm going to set my alarm. I want to know about that sexually and the veal thing. Okay, let's go to, we'll give out the phone numbers. 990-9352 in Hillsborough, 461-9352 in Pinellas. Let's go to St. Petersburg. The call's not necessarily really coming in from St. Petersburg. It says on the screen, Steve from St. Petersburg, who also happens to be Jerry from Indian Rocks Beach, and may well actually and truly be Rosemarie. Hi there, St. Petersburg.
What's happening, Bob?
Not much.
Oh, I had to call up and try to psychoanalyze different callers. I haven't done that Indian Rocks thing in months.
What a
Lester.
jerk like you is actually going to follow the format today? You're the only one. God love you. Thank you, Jerry.
Lester, I haven't done Jerry in months. Literally months. Do you still remember it?
Do I remember it? Of course I do.
Gosh, I made my mark. No, I just have one question. Should I try to analyze callers I like or I do not like?
Any kind you want.
Okay, well, I'll do the ones that I like. I like Bob and Valrico and Lou and St. Pete. I think they're great. And what is so great about them is they will come on the air and just say whatever's on their mind. Unlike,
But why do you... What is the motivation that keeps a guy like Valrico Cookie sitting home listening day in and day out? Obviously, he has no one that he can really agree with anymore. The poor man's got to be going bananas. What do you think keeps him there?
I don't know. Probably the same thing that keeps me there. I really don't have anyone to agree with anymore.
It doesn't appear to be as important to you as it would be to Valrico Cookie. Reassurance.
I guess people listen because they find it interesting. I'll admit it. I find your show terribly interesting. I don't always agree with it, but it's interesting.
But like Valrico Cookie called Paul Gonzalez all the time. Gonzalez was probably far more liberal than I am.
But Paul would yell at him.
Wait, what do you mean? Valrico Cookie would call up and he'd say, well, Paul, these commie bedwetting pinkos, like the flag, and I do. And when I was in the Marines, and, John Wayne and I used to go out drinking, Paul, I got to go now.
And Paul would simply say, hey, thank you, Valrico Bob.
I know.
And Valrico Bob was convinced that he and Paul were soulmates.
I know. I used to hear him when he was on from 2 to 6. It was, I don't know. I think I'm not sure how I can put this. If Bob believes he will get an easy time of it, then he will call up, like he calls Sam, because he knows Sam is going to sit there and go, God bless you, Bob, or whatever. And once in a while he'll call Webb, because Webb kind of, I don't know how to...
He and Webb have threatened to, meet on the corner and punch each other out.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that one.
To the best of my knowledge, it was Valrico Bob, or a damn good Valrico Bob impersonator.
And by the way, Bob, I finally got me a Laserdisc player.
A Laserdisc player?
Yeah. Because everyone...
Oh, for film?
No, for, those little... I don't know, those little plastic things. I don't know, they don't sound that much better than a...
Do you mean CD?
Yeah.
Well, that's because you don't have good enough speakers then, apparently. What you should do is go out and pick yourself up a set of Sony lightweight speakers. They're about $60, $70. They're dynamite. Plug them into your CD, and you will then start hearing things that you never, ever, ever heard before. It's a lot cheaper to do that than go out and blow $1,400 on speakers.
Well, I just spent almost $1,000 on a new system. The old Toshiba finally went down the drain. No, but and as far as Danny the Dodger goes, Danny the Dodger is just, it gets old. It seems more often than not, it's just always, talking about how great the 60s were. So I would say Danny is probably lost in another time. Danny has not quite been able to pull himself out of the past. That's how I would analyze Danny. He's sort of like a lonely soul who sits around dreaming of days of free concerts and things like that. That's how I would psychoanalyze Danny.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as TJ and Carolyn, they don't really annoy me the way they do other people.
Do you worry about any of these people, by the way?
Do
you think about these people?
Once, they cross my mind once in a while. I don't sit and think of and dwell on them, but, once in a while I'll think about, I wonder what Bob and Valrico is really like, or what Lou is like, or some of the more interesting callers.
I do sometimes think about the ones who are obviously alone and obviously a little bit more up in years. For example, Danny the Dodger, I would, basically say, well, that's the impression from listening to him I get too, but I don't worry about Danny. Danny apparently has family and, so forth and so on. That's all fine and well. But some of these other people, as I mentioned earlier, Southside Johnny. I thought about Southside Johnny last Christmas. I thought about the Brandon Brain lady. And then a couple of weeks ago, when we heard her with this horrible, horrible, horrible cold, I was thinking, geez, maybe there's something really wrong with this woman. And if she calls me up, I'm going to give her a hard time. But I still think about them. Steve, be good.
All right, take it easy, Bob.
Take care. At last. Now the board's starting to fill up and the show's over. Don Richards standing by with the WFLA News Brief. But I would recommend, instead of the boss, instead of the big client, somebody a little bit closer, like maybe your significant other, your husband, your wife, your kid that just graduated from college, somebody that you want to say, hey, I appreciate all that you are, all that you've been to me. I want to buy you a fine, fine, fine meal. I want to share with you a fine meal. Calb's Cove, a perfect place, an absolutely perfect place for saying I love you, or thanks, or I respect you, or so many things. Calb's Cove. Great menu. Dynamite food. The service, never stuffy, but it's always professional and personalized. Right there at Dockside, Calb's Cove. 13155 Gulf Boulevard, Madeira Beach. Their telephone number is 393-3448. Sunset Beach. Hi there, son. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
There's one individual who interests me, who I haven't heard mentioned this afternoon except by you, and that was Tom from Lutz.
Tom from Lutz. Very interesting man.
Do you guys know him? I mean, have you ever ascertained who this individual really is?
Yes, I believe his last name is generally known around the station. I forget it. And he apparently works in real estate.
A few words come to mind. Bookish, compulsive, anal, maybe. He reminds me of a character Chris Elliott used to do a few years ago on the David Letterman show. This is a character called the Paranoid Guy. He had a button-down air about him, ultra-conservative gray suit, narrow lapels, narrow tie, darting eyes, convinced that they, the generic they, were out to destroy the world, but first had to dispose of him since he was the only person who understood the grand conspiracy.
Well, that's one of the things that amazes me so much about Tom. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody gets their facts backwards from time to time. But Tom will go with stuff that he knows not to be true in order to make his point. And that's kind of scary.
Well, it is. That type of an individual, I guess maybe I do take a fairly benign view of that type of individual. That's someone who maybe just suffers from overload of some sort. They've had to form this very rigid black and white view of the world. And when they're confronted with a situation or a problem, or some sort of a value that falls outside of that narrow view, I think it sets off an instinct in them to try to control and to try to regiment.
Well, I don't know if Tom really is in the real estate business, and he's listening, I'm sure he is. But Tom, I get out of it, because if you handle your real estate deals the way you handle your calls, things like, oh, yeah, sure, it's a brand new refrigerator.
Yeah, right. There are lots of Toms around, though.
Be good.
See ya.